The story I am about to tell is gruesome and may trigger some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
911, what's your emergency?
Hey, what's up, besties? Welcome back. So I'm very excited to announce to you guys we actually have 301 besties. So 301 besties, 301 subscribers. And if you guys like this video, please comment, like, subscribe for more deep dives. This one is a little bit of a long one. Sit down, we're gonna talk some true crime together. So guys, I have been researching. This all started off because I was on TikTok the other day, and you know how you just mindlessly scroll. Where a lot of I have two separate TikToks now. I used to have one that was for both my YouTube and for my regular personal, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and make one for my true crime. I'm scrolling on TikTok and I start to hear about the Chris Watts, trial, murders, everything. And I was like, oh my goodness, I remember when this came out, I was in college, super, busy, 2018, around that time. And 2018 was my freshman year. So I just remember being so busy, not understanding what was going on. Obviously, I didn't follow this one. So this is all new to me. I mean, I've heard of it, every once in a while I'd hear about Chris Watts, but I didn't know the whole extent of this story. So this is gonna be a little bit of a long one, okay, guys? Just get ready for this. So first we're going to talk about Chris Watts, and we're going to talk about his wife, Shanann. And Shanann, we're going to talk about her. She is one of the victims of Chris Watts. And this story gets a little crazy, so just buckle in. So Shanann was 34 years old, and she was from New Jersey. So she's from New Jersey. And then Chris himself was from North Carolina. Shanann actually moved to North Carolina later on in her life, and that is actually how she met Chris. And then later on, they will go to move to Colorado together. So Chris and Shanann actually met in 2010, and they actually got married on November 3rd of 2012. So they got married 2 years after kind of dating, seeing each other. And I did watch some videos of Shanann. She was very active on her Facebook. So girly was always on Facebook. Shanann, that girl, she was on Facebook. She was Facebook living all the time. She was vlogging. She was a vlogger. She was that girl. And so for Shanann, she always shared her personal life on her Facebook page. And one of the stories that she shared was how she met Chris Watts. And she actually said that, it was through a mutual friend, and they kind of met, I don't know if it was at a bar, but they're out in a setting. And she brings up how she was sick at the time with a disease that was like an autoimmune disease. And I was trying to do some research on what was going on there, because she's like, no other man would take care of me as much as Chris would when it comes to my disease. So I'm like wondering, what is it? Well, Chris Watts actually later says that she had lupus. So for her, lupus is extremely tiring. Like, you are tired all the time. You're in pain. You have sometimes rashes. And so Chris took care of her. From what we know, he was taking care of her at the time. Well, so then after 2012, they decided, we're going to move to Colorado together. And they moved to Colorado together. Apparently, it was for some sort of job opportunity. I don't know if it was Chris's job. I don't know if it's Shanann's job. But one of them had a job opportunity. So let's go back to what I was saying about Shanann being a vlogger, a, Facebook influencer. So Shanann was always on her Facebook doing Facebook Lives with her family. And she had two daughters with Christopher Watts. So the first one was Bella Marie, and Bella Marie was 4 years old. And then there's Celeste Catherine, also known as Cece, very close in age. So the two sisters are very close in age, and you can see them all the time on her Facebook, kind of dancing together, being together. They're very close sisters because they're very close in age. So it's kind of like you have a best friend to grow up with. And I'm really far apart from my sister, but we have similar interests, so I can feel this. I don't know, if we were closer in age, I feel like we'd be a lot more closer. Shanann was actually a stay-at-home mom, and she was always posting on her Facebook because she worked for a multi-level marketing company. So when you're in multi-level marketing, they don't have the best reputation, okay? We all know that. LuLaRoe, they're always trying to sell you those leggings. Avon, always trying to sell you some sort of cosmetic, bath products, deodorant. Then you hear Mary Kay, always trying to sell you some makeup. Well, there's also ones for hair. Like, I think there's not a video, but something like that. And they like do hair care. There's all different types of MLMs, but the one that she specifically did was Lavelle. And I think that one was like health, wellness, because I watched a few of the Facebook Lives and they still are up on Facebook and they're also still up on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you can always find them. Lavelle is like supplements, which obviously people have different opinions on. I'm not here to make my judgment of the girl. She was trying to make money. She was trying to get that coin. She was trying to make money. Who am I to tell this woman what she can do and what she shouldn't do? So I have no opinions, but she worked for Lavelle. And she was always selling items on her Facebook via these Facebook Lives and via a bunch of videos. So the reason why these are prevalent is because Chris can be seen in the background. And all of her friends, everyone she knew Chris as a shy, kind of quiet guy. Like, he's quiet, but once you got to know him, he was nice. You know, he treated her well. That was their opinion of him. They thought that he was an all-American kind of guy. And it is rumored that Shanann's family and friends loved Chris. And actually, you can see there's a video of Chris up on YouTube. And Chris Watts does a presentation on how to have a loving marriage. It's like something like that. It's like how to keep a loving marriage going. And it's funny because later on you're going to see he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So it's kind of like me giving you advice on how to buy a home. And I've never bought a home. So backpedal. Christopher Watts worked at Anadarko Petroleum and he worked as a oil field operator. So I don't know if that includes him carrying like the bins of oil or what, but he was an oil field operator. In multiple stories that Christopher and Shanann's friends now recount, they were actually struggling to meet their financial needs at this point with their two daughters, Chris and then his wife Shanann. But Shanann comes out in May of 2018 and says, oops, we did it again. She has this shirt on. She's on Facebook Live. She's showing up like to her husband. Hey, Chris, I'm pregnant, like expecting him to kind of be excited. And in the video, it's a little awkward. He does look like that's his natural look, if that makes sense. Like when you're watching it, if it was just your buddy on Facebook, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's just how Chris is. You'll put it off. But later on, you're going to see he actually didn't want her to be pregnant. Like, he didn't want her to have this child. And he actually begins to bring up to her, like, the financial concerns. Like, at first, he tells her, oh, I want this baby. I'm so happy. But then you're going to see he starts to slowly bring up. Now, you don't do this to a woman who's already pregnant. It's not like she can terminate the pregnancy after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. You know what I mean? Like, she already chose to keep the baby. It's like, in no way can she get rid of this baby from inside of her. So she must feel so bad when all of a sudden he's like, I'm having second thoughts. I don't want you to be pregnant. That is so difficult to put on Shanann, and Chris does that. So this brings us into our next section of the video, and this is Chris's whole change and shift in demeanor and what caused it. What caused Chris to change? This loving family, what happened to Chris? So a lot of people can say that they've seen narcissistic traits in Chris throughout his life, you know, whether that be giving the relationship advice when, you know, he's not really qualified, or giving advice to people, or, you know, putting himself off as an image that he's not, such as going up to women and saying that he's single, which you're going to see later on. But there's multiple things that had maybe a switch flipped in Christopher Watts. Chris's attitude begins to change. So you know how when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you know their attitude. You know, you come home every Friday night and you want cuddles, and that's your Friday night routine. Well, Shanann felt the same thing. Her and Chris, she said that he was a hands-on kind of boyfriend. He always wanted affection, love, kisses, hugs. I mean, they had another child on the way. That child had to be made somehow, guys. So she was shocked when she got pregnant. A few months later, Chris starts acting cold to her. He's no longer touching her. He's no longer hugging her, holding her, telling her everything's gonna be all right. No longer kissing her, texting her, nothing. So she starts telling people, especially her friends, and telling Chris himself, my own husband doesn't want to talk to me. What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? On July 14th of 2018, Shanann is having a conversation with Chris Watts, and he brings up that he does not want to have the child, and he no longer wants to be with Shanann. He says like he doesn't want to be with her. He doesn't want to, do anything. He doesn't want to be with her, nothing. And she's kind of not begging him, but she wants the relationship to work. So Shanann is kind of telling Chris, what can I do? What can I do to make this right? What can I do? And pause for 1 second. If you guys want to read any of this, there is it's like thousands of pages. It's like a 2,000 page affidavit type thing. It's like a legal document type thing where it has all of the conversations, all of the evidence, everything. I believe is for the legal counsel to bring up in court, but it was actually released to the public. So if you guys want to read that, that will be in the resources down below. And along with that, there will be some other videos and the text messages from her best friend as well, because this is kind of relevant to what I'm talking about. So she says, why didn't you want to be with me? He says, I don't want to be with you. Gives her no reason at all besides, I think we've grown apart. I think we've changed. So what does Shanann do, as every good wife would do? What can we do? Can we go to counseling, couples counseling? Can I buy you a self-help book, some sort of couples counseling book where you read it? And he says, yeah, sure, whatever. He ends up getting a book from Shanann that she orders off of Amazon or whatever, and off of online. And it's, how to get your relationship back, how to feel the spark type of book. And I don't think Chris even read it, but because, you're going to find out Chris has a mistress. So Chris is cheating on Shanann, okay? He's a mistress. So he doesn't care about this book. He has no intentions of keeping this book. And for Shanann, this is very difficult because she is a stay-at-home mom. She does not have, she's very good at selling these products. Yes, Shanann is, but she does not have enough income to support 3 children. Christopher Watts begins cheating on his partner with someone named Nikki. And now you're going to find out that it's actually Nicole Kessinger, and Nicole worked with Chris. So at the Anadarko Petroleum, or whatever it's called, Anadarko, I don't know how to say it correctly, but Nicole Kessinger worked with him there. You're not even safe. Your man's not even safe at work. They're flirting with him at work. You don't even know what goes on in your spouse's work. That is terrifying. Anyways, back to the story. Chris Watts is sending little emails on his work computer, on his work email, his work Outlook. It's probably like chris.watts at, whatever, at anadarko.com probably. He's sending these little work emails to Nicole being like, you are so fun, vibrant, and young and exciting. And apparently Nicole only had relationships with really, really bad men. So he was like, wow, you're like a breath of fresh air. You've been hurt so many times, but you're so sweet. And she's adventurous, she's single, she has no children. So Nicole can kind of do whatever she wants. And I saw this on Reddit. They do look very similar. So Chris obviously had exercised some of his interest in Shanann and moved them into Nicole. Nicole Kessinger expresses her interest in Christopher Watts. And from what she said that Chris actually took off his wedding ring when he approached her. And he kept saying that he was getting a divorce to Shanann. So he's like, I'm done, I'm getting a divorce, so it's perfectly fine. But later on, we begin to find out that Nicole Kessinger is Googling on her computer. She's Googling things like, man is married, says he loves me, or says he will leave his mistress, and wedding dresses, and wedding this, and she's Googling really, really weird things. So it seems like she did know about Shanann, and she Googled Shanann Watts multiple times. I think it was 2 or 3 times during this whole journey. Okay, so here's the next step in their relationship. Shanann decides that she's going to go back to North Carolina for 6 weeks with her daughter. So Cece, Bella, Shanann all leaving, Chris home alone, right? He was going to stay back for some work. He was really stressed out at work. That's what he says. Not true. Chris decides that he's going to be texting Nicole behind Shanann's back the whole time. So he's texting Nicole, and the thing is, when you read the text messages between Shanann and Chris, her husband and wife, they're all awkward. So Shanann is texting him hey, how are you? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what's up? And he's kind of being 3 hours later, hey honey, missed you. But then he's at the same time messaging Nicole, hey Nicole, love you, whatever, talking to Nicole nonstop during this time. But he can't even message his own wife back, who is with his daughters. So Chris Watts actually begins seeing Nicole at this point because it's 6 weeks, so it gives him enough time to kind of exercise his cheaterness, get his little grubby hands wet. So he decides that he is going to take Nicole out. He takes her to museums, he takes her to a hotel, he takes her to fancy dinners, and get this, he runs out of money, okay? He's like, I don't have any money right now. So you know what I'm gonna do? He uses his conjoined credit card between him and his wife, Shanann, to pay for dinner for this woman, Nicole. To me, that's the ultimate disrespect right there. So at this point, Shanann is 18 weeks pregnant, and Chris is not showing any interest in his wife, nor is he about the pregnancy. Nicole is kind of, encroaching on his relationship, and he does not care about Shanann anymore. Shanann ends up with Chris coming up with a baby named Nico. So it's going to be a boy, and his name is going to be Nico. Now, they knew it was going to be a boy, but guess what? They were supposed to have a gender reveal party. So, Shanann was planning it. She was having all this fun, being a lovely mom, doing everything by herself because her husband really doesn't care. He really doesn't care at this point. So they actually end up canceling the gender reveal party. So Shanann ends up canceling it. And she's texting her buddies like, I canceled it. Chris doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't care about me. There has to be someone else. There's no way he's treating me this way. Like, there's no way. So her friend is kind of saying, no, maybe he's adjusting. Maybe he's adjusting to the move, the new job, all of it. And like, obviously this is a few years later, but they're probably saying, he misses his family maybe. We don't know. The person is only looking from the outside. They're not seeing the inside. They're not seeing how he used to hold her and he no longer holds her. He used to kiss her, he no longer kisses her. They don't know that aspect of the relationship, I think a key note here is that neighbors reported that they had heard multiple fights before. So it seems like during this time there was a lot of fighting. There was fights out in the driveway. Neighbors reported hearing a lot of domestic disputes, not necessarily violence, but disputes over in the neighbor's house. So the neighbor would hear, Shanann and Chris kind of fighting. This is the point where Nicole the mistress starts Googling things like, man is married, says he will leave his wife for me, or man is married, will he leave his wife for me? Like, really weird things. And at this point, Chris also starts Googling things. Like, it's like, Chris, what are you doing, bud? He starts Googling, how do you know when you're in love? Or how do I say I love you to this mistress? The thing is, you said it. You say it to your wife all the time. Like, I don't understand. How do you not know you're in love? How do you not know if you love someone, if you are married, Chris? Answer me that. On August 13th of 2018, Shanann arrives back from a business trip. And this business trip was it was for her company, that Lavelle. And she actually ended up going with her best friend, Nicole. So this is another Nicole. This is not the mistress. So at this point, if I refer to Nicole, Shanann's friend, that is a different person. So Nicole, Shanann's friend, drops her off at 1:38 a.m. And from what she was saying that the whole trip, Shanann was very down, very sad. She wanted to come home. She just wasn't feeling good, okay? So she was telling all of her friends, I have this prenatal appointment at 9 a.m. So her friend is like, okay, she has this appointment. She's gonna, see why she's feeling that way. So we're gonna check on the baby. I'll check on her. I'll text her later when she wakes up. It's 1:30 a.m. Now, Christopher Watts tells this story multiple ways, which is so weird. Like, the first story that he gives, I'm gonna tell you guys what he had told the police. So what he told the police was that Shanann had strangled the daughters Cece and Bella, and that he walked in and he ended up strangling Shanann for strangling the kids. Then he packed Shanann in with her bed sheet, and then the daughters with their bed sheets, threw them in his truck and hid their bodies because he was scared for people to find out. That is what Chris said happened. Now, we get a letter now, like literally probably like 2021, 2022, whatever, years later, And this is letters from Christopher, and this is from a pen pal that he kind of talks to while he's in prison. He's like erring on the side of caution. He's like, let me tell you what actually happened, guys. And he actually starts to speak out on what he actually did. Now, there's so many ways that this story could be manipulated, so we're gonna take what the latest one was and say that was what happened, only because the science support what happened. So on the report, the coroner's report of the two daughters, they were not in any way strangled. They were actually suffocated. So that story about his wife makes no sense. So this story that he says actually makes more sense to the crime and what the medical examiners said during their reports. So Chris's new recounts, he's saying that he went into Bella's room and smothered her with her pillow. Then he went into Cece's room and smothered her with her pillow. And then he went to go and begin a discussion, what he says, with Shanann that morning. And he woke up Shanann, they get into a little argument. He says that he gets on top of her and starts strangling her. Now, he said that Shanann never fought back, which is indicative of why they didn't see any like marks on him, and they don't necessarily know why. They don't know what happened, but he says that she didn't fight back. Now, this is where it gets interesting, that it really much differs from his original story. He says that Cece and Bella woke back up, like got back up after they were suffocated, which doesn't make any, I don't know how that happens, but he says they were looking at him asking, what's wrong with mommy, things like that. And this is what Chris says happened. So Cece and Bella wake up from being suffocated, say, what's wrong with mommy? He wraps Shanann up in a bed sheet, drags her off the bed, drags her down the stairs. He says that she was heavy because she's having a baby, I guess. I don't know. He has a whole story about this. And he brings the girls into the truck. Now, one of the things we know is that Shanann did not let him park the truck in the driveway because it leaked oil. And Shanann actually has a Lexus from selling Lavelle. So she actually won a company car that was a Lexus. So that comes, that's important later on. But the Lexus is in the garage, and he backs up into the garage, which he isn't allowed to do normally. So that's interesting. He loads something into the truck for 27 minutes. He is loading things into the truck for 27 minutes. What were you doing for 27 minutes? So we're thinking, well, he actually said that he loaded Shanann and then the girls went into the car, which wasn't seen on security footage. So we think that the girls were still deceased and put into the car with Shanann, the three bodies, because in the footage that we see later on, he's struggling to get this gas can into the car. Like, he's holding on one side, it's like, that won't fit. Goes around the other side, goes, oh yeah, let's put it here. And he puts it down, and we're like, why is he playing puzzle pieces with this gas can? So obviously we are, the viewers or the courts or whatever, everyone thinks that there was three bodies in the back and not the two daughters in the back seat. They think that he's lying about that. Now, he says that he drove to an area that he knew he was familiar with from his oil work. So there was 2 oil tanks at that site, and then a shallow grave that he dug. In the shallow grave, he placed Shanann, who was pregnant with his son Nico, into the shallow grave with her bedsheet, and then he shoved Cece and Bella into these oil tanks. Now, is Chris Watts in any way remorseful? Is he in any way remorseful of what he just did? No. The man goes to work. On the way to work, he calls the girl's school, his daughter's school, okay? This is so wrong. This man, Christopher Watts, this makes me infuriated. He calls up the school district, okay? He's like, hey, my daughters won't be in school ever again. Okay, thanks, bye. You mean to tell me that you literally, your children, okay, I can't say that on YouTube, did that to your children and then expect yourself to check them out of school and nobody's gonna ask any questions? And then on top of that, he calls up his realtor and he's like, hey, I have to sell my house. Yeah, I'm getting a divorce. Yep. Yeah, she's leaving. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye. So you do that to your children. You do that to your wife who's pregnant, which is even terrible. Like, this is the worst thing ever. Then you go and check your kids out of the school district, And then on top of that, well, the school. And then after that, you're like, I'm gonna put my house up for sale because who cares? Now, all of this begins to raise red flags in Shanann's best friend, Nicole, the one who dropped her off at 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. Nicole is like, I haven't heard from her all day and I've been texting her. Her phone is her lifeline. Shanann always answers me and she's been saying that Chris is acting really weird. So I'm gonna go check on her. Now, Nicole brings her son. So Nicole and her son pull up to Shanann's house and Chris's house, and they see that Chris's vehicle is gone, okay? And they have a Ring doorbell, and this sends footage over to Christopher Watts' phone. And now Chris Watts is kind of fighting with this Nicole, being like, no, go home, leave us alone. I'll call the cops on you. Stop trying to open the door. And Nicole's asking the right questions. This girl, I would want this Nicole to be my best friend because she did her investigation. She's like, Shanann's shoes are at the door. Shanann never leaves without those shoes. Those are her daily shoes. This girl wears those shoes every day. Those are her outdoor shoes, okay? Her shoes are at the door. I looked in the garage. I looked through the little window. Her car is there with the car seats in it. And so he's trying to tell this Nicole, her friend, that Shanann is out with the girls at a play date. She's out with the girls at the play date without her car, without the car seats, without the shoes, and you won't let me in to even check to see what's going on. Why? So Nicole ends up calling the police. She calls the police. And now the police, when they arrive to the site, they're like, yes, all of this is strange. I know, I understand. We want to do a welfare check or a wellness check on Shanann, but we can't. We need her husband's permission to enter the house. Because obviously, you know, you have to get subpoenas, you have to get all of these warrants, all of these things usually are probable cause. And he's like, at the moment, I don't have any probable cause or anything. And now Chris Watts just shows how full of himself he is. He pulls up to the site at like 1 p.m. or whatever. So her appointment was supposed to be at 9. Also, I forgot to mention, not only did Nicole do all of that, Nicole calls the doctor and is like, did Shanann come to her appointment? And I guess the doctor might have told her, I don't know if that's against HIPAA, but the doctor told her like, she never showed up to her appointment. So Nicole, no, she didn't show up to her 9 a.m. appointment. Her car's in the garage, her shoes were there. There's no way, my best friend, something's wrong with her. So Nicole said she felt like a ball in her stomach. Like she felt like something was wrong. She felt something was wrong. So this cop, you know, Christopher Watts pulls up in his work truck and he's not in any way concerned. You think if your wife's best friend told you all of this, like, where is she? What's happening? You would be concerned? No. Chris is like stalling. He's walking so slow. He's going up the stairs. Chris is like, yeah, whatever. He opens the door. So he's like, you can go through the garage, is what he told the police officer. Police officer is like, I can't get in the garage. And he's like, why? And he's like, there's a passcode. So Chris goes, oh yeah, the passcode's broken. No, it's not. So Chris ends up going in through the garage or whatever. He pulls up. He goes into the house. Mind you, he's never allowed to park in the garage. So that was red flag number 1. He pulled up, you know, he pulled up and he went through the garage. And so when he pulls up, and then he's going through the house and he's super slow. And the police and Nicole don't hear, Shanann, Cece, Bella, you think if your wife is gone, you'd be checking like, hey Shanann, what's going on? Shanann, you home? Cece, you home? Bella? No, nothing. Christopher Watts does not care. He walks up to the door, he opens the door, he lets them in. Now, Nicole, she sees the shoes, she sees everything. She ends up going upstairs, she's like, what's going on? She finds Shanann's phone. Okay, that's Shanann's lifeline. That girl's always on Facebook. She's always answering her texts. Why is Shanann not answering her texts? On top of that, all of the bed sheets are missing. Cece's bed sheets, Bella's bed sheets, the Shanann master bedroom bed sheets that he said he wrapped Shanann in are gone. On top of that, he walks out, Chris thinking that he's hot stuff, grabs Shanann's wedding ring and is like, look at this, she left her wedding ring, she must be cheating on me, like type of vibe. He's like, look, I don't know if this has to do with it, but she left her wedding ring. And the cop is like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, we care about the other things. Like, why is her cell phone here and she's with your 2 daughters out in the world? Like, we don't know if something could happen to her. And so he's not answering any questions. He's like, yeah, she went to the play date. Yeah, she went out. I don't know. She said she had like a little thing to go to. I don't remember. I don't know. He's acting so shady. So then the police is like, does anyone have cameras nearby? Does anyone know anything? And I guess a neighbor kind of speaks out and is like, hey, I have cameras of the garage because my cameras like point in that direction of the street and it kind of like overlaps into the garage. So I can capture what's kind of going on through the bushes. So the cop is like, oh yeah, bring your DVR over. Bring it over, plug it in or whatever, and we'll take a look. So the guy ends up coming over or whatever. I think it was in Chris Watts' living room or it may have been in the neighbor's living room. But he's showing on the DVR the film, like the footage, and Chris is stuck. He was stuck upstairs when they found the phone and the wedding ring and all that. But he is stuck. The man has nothing really to say. He's pacing. He's a mess. And the thing is, they usually say when you get arrested, they say, put your hands up behind your head. Chris is already doing that. The man is telling on himself with his body language. He's going like this. Does wide-eyed. Doesn't think to look for his wife, nothing. Just like this. And so they're like, why did you pull up to the driveway? Why did you take 27 minutes to load something? And he's like, oh, I had to find where to put the gas can. Like, he's making these little stupid lies. And it's just, no. Nobody's believing Chris. And so when Chris actually, I think he walks out of the room and he leaves, the cop, Nicole, and this neighbor are left. And the neighbor's like, something's weird. He's definitely in trouble. Like, the neighbors and Nicole knew something was wrong with Shanann from the jump. They knew something was wrong. Now, local news comes around and tries to interview Chris Watts about the situation and Shanann's disappearance. And they put out all the alerts. They do the whole nine. You know how, like, within 24 hours if someone's missing, they start to put out all types of, Facebook, all of it. They're like, missing, Shanann, Bella, Cece, Shanann's pregnant with Nico, all of those things. And so Shanann's mom actually thinks that Chris is innocent at this point. So Shanann's mom is like, don't do the interview. People are immediately going to look at you as a suspect. Keep your head, your head high. And he's like, no, this is a narcissistic trait. He wants to go on local television and talk about it. And the thing is, he's not crying. You think if your wife and your 2 daughters were missing and your wife is pregnant too, like another child on the way, so 3 children are missing, you would be like, oh my God, I miss my Shanann, I miss Cece, you'd think you would be crying. No, Christopher Watts is just like, I miss you guys. Please come home. Thank you. And so that's when everyone starts looking at him like, what's going on? What's going on? So Chris actually begins to start deleting his messages with Nicole. He actually tells the police officers that Shanann was cheating on him. Like, at least he thought Shanann was cheating on him, so projecting. Now, Nicole claims that she did not have any idea of Chris murdering his wife and children. She didn't know anything about it. But Nicole actually starts Googling things like, can cops trace deleted text messages? All types of things like that. And she's actually found Googling things like, do people hate Amber Frey? Which, if you don't know who Amber Frey was the mistress of a very similar case where a man killed his pregnant wife, and Amber, see, I'm getting it wrong. Amber was the mistress. So Nicole was Googling if people hate her. She also wrote a book, so Nicole was kind of writing about her book, which I think is like interesting because maybe she wanted that clout. Like, maybe Nicole was like, will people hate me if I write a book? Huh? Will I get clout? What's happening? So Nicole actually eventually confesses to police officers that she's having an affair with Chris Watts, and this is where it all starts to go downhill. So they go ahead and take a look at the work site where the oil site was, and they notice that the bed sheets from his apartment are found there, from the house are found there. So the bed sheets from the house are found at the site. The freshly dug grave, where you can see that there's like fresh soil that has been dug up. So they asked Chris, do you want to do a polygraph test to see if you are innocent? And Chris was like, yeah, I'll do it. Chris ends up failing the polygraph. He was so sure that he wouldn't fail it, but he did. Christopher Watts has every symptom and trait of a narcissist from what I've seen some psychiatrists online, and I'll link an article down below that talks about him. There's actually someone on Dr. Phil, a psychiatrist, I believe, or some sort of like therapist, mental health person on Dr. Phil, who said that Christopher Watts shows many traits of a narcissist, especially with him being emotionless and laughing. He's caught laughing in some of the footage where he talks about the murder of his wife and children, which he committed, okay? So he actually ends up pleading guilty and receives 5 life sentences. So he pleads guilty, gets 5 life sentences. Christopher Watts will spend the rest of his life in prison. And they actually ended up moving Chris Watts to a maximum security prison because they said it was a very big safety risk leaving him in general population, because a lot of people wanted to him. They were like, you are a terrible man. I mean, it's crazy when you're in jail, the tears of crime. They're like, listen, I stole a lollipop. We need to kill you. Shanann and her 3 lovely children were actually buried as Shanann Ruzick on her tombstone, and she was actually buried with her 3 children beside her. And they actually sent their remains back to North Carolina to be buried with their family, and her family was very grateful that they were able to kind of see her funeral and know that her remains were found, but they were in shambles because of what had happened and what they went through in the media, and especially since a lot of people to this very day believe that Shanann did the crime and that Christopher was kind of acting as a reactionary sort of murder, which doesn't make any sense at all from what the cameras have shown, from his confessions, from his letters, from everything. But people still believe that, and it very much harms and hurts her family because they know that she was not the type of person to ever do that, and they feel very greatly and deeply about this. So let me know what other cases you guys would like to see down below. I have a Google form down below that you could fill out to provide me with other case suggestions, and let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, this deep dive. And my heart goes out to Shanann's family and just anyone involved with this case. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all my besties. Have a great day, guys. Bye.